How do we define where we're from? Is it where we were born? Where we were raised? Where we live now? I think there are few places that this generates as much controversy as the Pine Tree State. The question of who gets to claim to be a Mainer and the very criteria for admission are both unclear and hotly debated. In most states, merely being a resident would allow you to claim such a place as home and adopt the corresponding title. Yet the same cannot be said for Maine. No, in a state where the southern region is regarded as northern Massachusetts, things get more complicated. To determine what constitutes a true Mainer, I consulted the internet. The widely accepted minimum bar to entry is someone who was born and likely spent the majority of their formative years here. Though to some, simply being born here is not enough. No, your parents, and even your grandparents, must have been born here too for you to lay claim to this elusive status. A couple people even went as far as to say that you must be a third generation resident to be a true Mainer, because, as they astutely pointed out, the cat can have kittens in the oven, but that don't make 'em biscuits. I've always prided myself on being a Mainer, and I still do, even though, according to the more stringent definition, I might not qualify, since my dad is a Flatlander hailing from New Jersey. And I also always regarded this distinction between Mainers and those from away as harmless, if anything, humorous. In my mind, Mainers are hardworking, self reliant, practical folks, something I have always aspired to be. We're a tight knit community, and we have to be. There's not that many people that live here. The winters are cold, dark, and unforgiving, and it brings a sense of pride to be a part of the in group. Yet, when I began my service, I began to see the harm and hypocrisy inherent in drawing this distinction. After all, aren't we all from away? Maine was native land for far longer than it has even been a state. In my work, I've seen this distinction used to reject outside ideas that challenge the status quo. Any idea presented by someone who's from away can automatically be written off because they're not from here and would not understand how things work. More frequently, I notice this dynamic when anyone bearing out of state plates is assumed to fit the from away persona. This persona was not created overnight, but was rather the sum of seemingly insignificant acts, such as driving the wrong way out of the one-way street at the local grocery store, standing in line while talking on a cell phone, or not nodding or greeting others when walking down the street. Though taken separately, these acts do not amount to much. Together, they have contributed to the notion of an outsider who does not and will not ever understand local customs. Anyone who is from away is automatically assumed to behave in the same manner, and an invisible barrier is erected between the from heres and the from aways. It's only natural to feel a sense of kinship with those who share your place of origin, but it is also possible to do so in a way that is not exclusionary. In Maine, Massachusetts may be the from away poster child, but as soon as we find ourselves outside of New England, meeting someone from Massachusetts suddenly feels like finding a long lost brother. So why then do we reserve this camaraderie for occasions when we find ourselves far from home? First, I think because we know we have a good thing going here in Maine. After all, our slogan isn't Maine, the way life should be, for nothing. For many who select the Maine way of life, part of what makes it special is the peace and tranquility that comes from having less people around. Second, I think there are behaviors that are possible when living in a sparsely populated area that are simply not possible in an urban setting. I'm sure that if I waved at, nodded at, or attempted to acknowledge even half of the people I passed on the street in Boston, I would be exhausted and would quickly resign myself to no longer greeting people I didn't know. If I attempted to hold every phone call until I was not around others to avoid disturbing them, I would very likely get far less accomplished. And if I was always a cordial and courteous driver, I would very likely never get anywhere. Yet, all of these behaviors are integral to small town life in Maine and occasionally get challenged by those who hold on to their big city habits. Now, that is not to say that all, or even most of those from away, behave in this manner. There are many who actively seek small town life in Maine because they want a slower pace of life and a heightened sense of community. Yet we mistakenly lump all of these individuals into the same from away box and try to wall them out under the assumption that their behavior will align with this from away persona. By doing so, we're making Maine unfriendly to exactly the kind of people we want and need in our state to continue making Maine the way life should be, and not Maine the way life happens to be. So, how do we continue making Maine a welcoming home for everyone, not just those who can trace their ancestry back for 3 generations or more on both sides to a particular place in Maine? I recommend we start by adopting a more inclusive stance of what it means to be a Mainer, to be from here. While there will likely never be a clear consensus, I believe that being a Mainer is about embodying a set of ideals that come from time spent in the state with its people. What those ideals are will vary from person to person. For me, being a Mainer means to be hardworking, self-reliant, practical, reliable, kind to your neighbors, friendly to strangers, and assuming a constructive rather than extractive relationship with the state and those around you. For others, those ideals may be entirely different. But what is important is that you do not have to have been born in Maine or have lived a minimum number of years here to possess them. I believe that anyone, regardless of where they are from, who's spent enough time here to have a genuine understanding of the place and its people, or who is actively working to do so and wants to be a part of making Maine the special place that it is, can claim to be a Mainer. While this is certainly not a comprehensive solution, in my mind, it's a step in the right direction in opening our arms to those who do choose to call Maine home. Thank you.